Welcome to Open Mic with Mike Balsam, your host on Giant TV. Today and each show will bring you the people involved in the political scene here in Niagara, discuss the issues that are getting the attention across the region and some that should be getting the attention but maybe aren't. Today, we have a chance to meet two representatives from the town of Pelham. Joining me in studio today, Diana Huson, the new regional councillor from the town of Pelham. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And Diana, you just put in a full day of work at Brock University. What do you do at Brock?
I work in the registrar's office. It's kind of like the clerk's office of the university. And we do everything from trying to convince students to come to Brock, to pushing them through the cycle of being a student at Brock, to graduating them and sending them on their way. So we're kind of like the heart that pumps the students through the university.
Anything I can do to get tuition decrease for my son in first year? Nothing there?
No.
I don't think so. Also in the studio, Marvin Junkin, first term new mayor in the town of Pelham. Welcome, Marvin.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here, Mike.
Now, happy anniversary, 34 years today.
Yes, indeed.
For you and your wife.
My wife, Candace, she's put up with a lot of foolishness over the years. Yeah.
What's your secret for success in a marriage, Marvin?
Spend a lot of time apart.
Perfect. Listen, we're going to talk a little bit about the past, a little bit about the present, maybe a little bit of the future as well. Let's start with the past.
Okay.
Pre-election, we go back to Labor Day, the day after Labor Day, in September of 2017. There was a closed-door meeting.
Yes, September the 5th.
September the 5th.
Yep.
And you weren't happy with that closed-door meeting.
No, I thought that, number one, it should have been in the open. We were discussing finances, or maybe I should say lack of finances for the town of Pelham. And yes, like I say, the council discovered a lot of items about the finances of the town, and everybody left that meeting shell-shocked. Yes.
$17 million unaccounted for.
Yes, not really unaccounted for. So think of yourself as having three separate credit cards, and you kept paying one off with the other, and then using the third one to pay both of them off. Whereas what should have happened,
you've looked at my finances.
Yes. So what should have happened, we should have taken out a big debenture, something like a mortgage, but we couldn't do that because if we did that, the Infrastructure Ontario, who lent us the money for our great community center, would have seen our actual debt level, and we wouldn't have got the money.
So you stood up and you complained about this, and you were really adamant, and eventually led in November to you at a town council meeting handing in your resignation to the town clerk.
Yes, indeed. Spent a lot of time soul searching, talking to some close friends as to what I should do, and I figured that it came that was the only course of action that was open to me. Yes.
That must have been a very difficult decision, and right after that, not really right after that, but less than a year later, you're knocking on doors, and you're knocking on doors as the guy who stepped away from council. So what was that like to knock on the doors?
Yes, some residents of the town indeed made it be known that they wouldn't vote for me because they thought I was a quitter.
Right.
I had, instead of staying there and confronting the problem, I had indeed walked away. But at the same time, I was one councillor on a council of 7, and I'd already spent some time trying to convince other councillors to join me, and they just said, no, wait, let the new council deal with it. So that would have meant a year of deceit to the people who had elected me.
So Marvin, we had the controversy in the town of Pelham that basically pitted Team Junkin versus Team Augustine. But we also had, over this term, a lot of controversy at the region. And of course, Pelham had a regional councillor there, Brian Beatty. Diana, you took on Brian Beatty in this election and you beat him. Let's talk a little bit about that.
He had voted along certain terms with some of the previous council, the regional council that kind of came under fire. And he was also on the NPCA board, which had gotten a lot of public scrutiny. But Brian had been our regional councillor for, I think, 4 terms.
Yeah, I think
So he's been in politics a very long time. He previous to that, he was one of the high school principals, very rooted in the community. But I really felt like we needed a different direction. I thought we needed some new blood, someone who's going to look at something differently. And quite frankly, we'd never had a female candidate before for the regional councillor position.
That's kind of mind-boggling that there's never even been a female candidate.
Well, to be fair, we only got the regional councillor position, I think, the first term that Brian Beatty actually got elected.
But still, that's 4 elections.
That's true.
And not a single
That's
female
true.
candidate.
That's true. And for me, I it's important for me that we have more female representation in our regional government. We only had 4 out of 31 councillors, or 13% female representation. It's hard to reflect the interests of the community fully when half of it isn't really being represented. So.
Now, I know there was an organization of women in politics that was meeting prior to this election. Were you part of that?
They did hold some information sessions. I did go to one of them, and I had been mulling over the idea of running in the election. I had thought about it previously, but there was just something this time that just drew me to throw my name in. And I put my name forward. I immediately felt like I was going to be sick. It was really hard, and intimidating to put yourself out there so publicly. But I'm so glad I did it, because obviously I'm happy with the results.
So what was going on at the region as a whole was what prompted you to throw your name in. So far, I mean, we're still early in your 4-year term, but how do you feel so far in that role?
I feel great. We really have a great team vibe happening at the regional level. Everyone seems to, we may fall on different sides of an issue, but we seem to have respect for different opinions. There certainly isn't anyone aligning themselves in a clique and trying to force issues through in a certain way, and that was happening with the previous council. They were kind of acting like a party, which gave an unfair advantage to taking a lean on certain issues, right? So I'm really excited about the people we get to work with.
And Marvin, the two of you working together for the town of Pelham on regional council as well.
Yeah, like I say, like Diana says, the new council are working for the good of the region. It's not so much working for individual municipalities or anything like that. It's what's good for the region, what will help put the region forward. And Diane and I, both being newbies at this game, we seem to work off of each other exceedingly well. Yes.
Speaking of newbies, the whole council is new. 6 brand new councillors, all 3 wards with 2 representatives each. None of them have served before at all.
No, that's correct.
And we've got a new mayor who has some experience.
Yes,
first time being a mayor.
Yeah, with 3 years of council,
That's it.
I am the old guy on council for
And
sure.
we have a regional councillor with no experience,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you do have a degree in political science, so a little
I
bit
do,
of background.
yeah.
How has it been coming together as a bunch of newbies?
From the council point of view, it is a learning experience for sure. It's a parliamentary procedure that everything has a process. And when you first get on council, you just want to go, and let's get this fixed, let's get that fixed. But it doesn't happen that way. I've often said that when you get involved in municipal politics, you have to line up with a fence post to make sure progress is actually happening. It is a slower... it's a slower mechanism of getting things done, but that's just the process it is, and the new guys are learning that and settling into the roles really well.
Diana, were you surprised to see that Pelham had that complete new clean slate? And were you also surprised to see a 50% voter turnout? That's huge, because the average, I think, across the region was in the mid to low 30s.
No,
Not at
wasn't
all.
surprised. I knocked on over 2,000 doors. I heard the words clean slate a number of times. People were very motivated to get out and vote. And I'm thrilled we got 50%. I think that's a great. We've always had a higher voter turnout in comparison to other municipalities.
The job is creeping in, right?
Got the job on the brain. But no, I had a feeling it was coming.
Marvin, do you approach this as almost your full-time job? I know you're a farmer, but are you approaching the mayor's role as almost a full-time job for you right now?
Yes, in between because I am the mayor, I'm also a representative on council, as you've noted, and between the two of them, there is a lot of reading, and of course, because again I'm a newbie, you've got to try to get caught up to everybody. I mean, at the region you have public housing, you've got public health, all kinds of things that you don't have at the town. So yeah, just read and more read, and try to get caught up on the issues is indeed it's taking more time than I thought. But that's okay. I'm more than willing to put the time in to be a good representative.
The province is in the middle right now of starting its budget process, and everyone's going to be watching what happens with Mr. Ford and the budget process. But one of the things that we are all watching here in Niagara is governance review.
Yeah.
What would you like to see come out of that governance review?
Wow. Number one, I definitely feel that the 12 municipalities and the region on top of that, I believe it is way too much government for this area. Whether we go to 4 smaller cities plus the region, I've heard in the last little while that when Hamilton amalgamated, they went to 1 mega city with 16 wards. If that was to happen, I don't know if that would be that bad for the region.
How much savings would that bring with?
Well,
16
I don't know
wards?
if you do save. I don't know what you do save.
Is it about savings, do you think?
I think
or is
with
it about
Mr.
more efficient government?
I believe exactly. I think Mr. Ford wants to see fewer politicians, and because when you get too many politicians, I believe that you actually stunt the democratic process. And so he probably wants to see fewer politicians in the region and save a few bucks along the way. Yes.
Diana, what would you like to see out of governance reform?
Well, and I agree that I think there's 2 possibilities. The one is, either he aligns the municipalities with the provincial and federal boundaries, which is similar to what he did in Toronto, which ended up reducing council to 25 members. Or we move to a One Niagara model. And there is duplication that's happening. As an example, municipal snow trucks have to drive down regional roads to get to municipal roads. Does it make sense that that's not their job? This is their job. So, I mean, little things like that, certainly with planning that, when businesses are coming in, they're having to connect with both planning and development at the municipal level as well as the regional level. There could be a better alignment. I tend to think that less is more.
Now, moving forward, if either of those scenarios happens, what is the likelihood of a community the size of Pelham in the future being able to construct something like that wonderful community center that we spoke about earlier?
Yeah, for sure. The whole dynamics change.
Because the community is not going to be able to get together and do that build process.
Yeah. Although I guess if you look at the flip side of it, because you're a bigger community and more residences, perhaps something like that happens on an easier scale. Because instead of just having 17,000 residents, you would have, if we went with the 4th city, you'd probably have, 150,000 in the city.
Right.
Pros and cons.
And the other benefit is for municipalities such as ours, where we're now dealing with a larger debt issue, is all of the municipalities now are taking on that debt. So it's not just people, specifically living in Pelham who are dealing with how do we pay this off, that it's watered down across the region.
Right.
So,
do you feel that the people in Pelham, do you feel that they would accept these changes? I mean, ultimately, they're probably not going to have a choice, but how happy will they be if they lose the Pelham identity?
Well, I think you can say that in regard to any municipality. Any municipality does not want to lose that hometown or small town feeling. But at the same time, when you look at St. Catharines, You still have Port Dalhousie. Where are you from? I'm from Port
You've
Dalhousie.
got Meriton.
Yes.
I teach, my day job is teaching in the Grantham ward in that area.
Yes, yes.
You know, I grew up in Western Hill, which is unofficially a sort of little village there. So we still hold on to those identities.
Yes.
But we don't have those governments anymore.
Yes, and I think you'll see that it'll take generations for those communities to meld into one, for sure. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And even the communities we have were smaller communities at some point that have been, amalgamated into what we have now.
Yes. One part of Pelham.
Yeah, and I don't say I live in the town of Pelham. I say I live in Fenwick.
Yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
Let's look ahead to the next 4 years. What would you like to accomplish in this term, Marvin?
Well, unfortunately, not unfortunately, right now we have the problem of cannabis growers in Fenwick. That is definitely a problem that, as a council, and perhaps even on a regional level, that we will have to get them to become better neighbors. Right now they're coming in, and yes, they're providing some well-needed jobs, but it's the odor and light pollution is way beyond the acceptable levels. When we have old residents that have been there for 30 or 40 years complaining that they can't open the windows, that they can't enjoy their decks in the summertime, that's totally unacceptable for the community.
Diana, what would you like to accomplish at the region in your role in these next 4 years?
I've got two main passions, and one is I'm helping leading the charge at the NPCA and trying to really put that organization into a new...
You met this morning with the acting CAO.
Yeah, and she's great. She's very professional, and I already have a great sense of where we can take the organization and make it more responsive, both to our municipalities, but also in fulfilling its mandate in terms of the environmental programming and servicing. And then two, I've always been very interested in economic development. How do we get more jobs here? How do we empower entrepreneurs and keep our economy going? I'm also chairing our Planning and Economic Development Committee. So I get to provide some leadership there, and I'm really excited about that.
Well, good luck to both of you over these next 4 years, and we'll all be watching that governance reform to see where that leads. You've been watching Marvin Junkin, the new mayor of the town of Pelham, and Diana Huson, the new regional councillor for that same town. My name is Mike Balsam. You've been watching Open Mic with Mike Balsam here on Giant TV. Thanks again.